Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining today. My name is Danielle. I'll be your host as we discuss Awakening Starseeds Volume 2. Today we have a very special guest with us, Alina Phoenix. She's a co-author and co-creator with Rada Publishing's Awakening Starseeds Volume 2. Thank you for joining us today. How are you, Alina?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing very well.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you. I'm so excited to have you here. So could you do us a good one here and tell us all about you, because I know you have a very unique and interesting background, and I would
Okay,
love to get
so I've been sensitive my whole life, and it's only been within the last couple of years that I've truly, really kind of awakened to everything that I am capable of doing. And it's been a very, very interesting journey. So a lot of what brought me here was being very sick for a very, very long period of time. I spent probably the last 20 years getting sick, and I was diagnosed about 6 years ago with a complex autoimmune disorder, including lupus, scleroderma, and fibromyalgia. And doctors at that time basically told me that my prognosis was permanently disabled by 40 and dead by 50 if I did everything that they said. And so what I heard from that was there are no good answers here. They don't really know how to handle what was going on with me. And I wasn't really interested in going bankrupt on the way to an early painful grave. So I was like, bye-bye. And so I've been on this journey to fix myself or die trying ever since. And basically my philosophy was I was going to try anything at all until I fixed myself, or I was going to die. And that was basically my choice. And I've had to change literally every single thing in my life in order to make this happen. But it's been an incredible journey. And I've learned that I actually am quite a powerful healer. And I'm 42 now. I am nowhere near disabled. I have healed things that doctors have told me were absolutely just going to get worse until I was just going to die. And so I want to tell other people that it is absolutely possible to heal, no matter what they tell you, no matter what they tell you. In fact, the worst thing for me about that whole experience was the way that the doctors took away hope. They wanted to make it like this was my death sentence that they were handing me, and that there was nothing that could be done, but they might be able to control some of my symptoms. And this first medication that we're going to put you on, the only side effect is it's going to make you blind. But, you know, we'll have you do monthly vision tests. And as soon as you start going too blind, then we'll switch you to this other one that kills your liver. And I was just like, no to all of that.
Good for you.
And I basically, I mean, I'm just too stubborn. I refused. And it's been a very interesting journey. Probably the most critical thing that I learned in the whole journey was to listen to myself, to listen to my own body. I was working with nutrition response testing practitioners and chiropractors who were doing applied kinesiology, muscle testing. And basically what I learned was that when you ask your body will give you answers and tell you what's bothering it and what you need to fix it. It's just a matter of learning how to ask your body and learning how to listen to those answers. So that's one of the things that I am very passionate about teaching people to do, is how to listen to yourself, because there's no doctor in this world that knows better what you need than what you do.
Right.
Those answers are all inside of us. And so, you know, today I want to talk a little bit about, well, the electromagnetic sensitivity part of my journey, because that is something that is being ramped up even more right now, especially with the rollout of 5G. And a lot of people are being very, very affected by this. And it's very interesting in history. Every time we've had a big technological advancement where there's new electromagnetic radiation introduced to the world, we actually see pandemics and epidemics. And there's also very interesting debates in the scientific field about germ theory, as in we have a pathogen that's making us sick, and so we need to kill it. Let's carpet bomb all the bacteria and kill all the viruses, et cetera, versus terrain theory, which is it's the environment that the germ is in that makes the difference. So like basically imagine a garden. You know, if you've got a garden and you have a seed that you're planting, but you don't give it the sunlight and you don't give it the water and you don't give it, you know, compost to fertilize it. Well, is that seed going to grow?
Not at
No,
all.
it's not going to grow. But if you take that same seed and you give it sunlight and water, etc., well, it's going to grow. And it's kind of the same thing with all of these microorganisms that constantly surround us. If they have the right environment, they'll grow. If they don't have the right environment, they're not going to grow. And that's why you see one person over here who catches the current virus going around and they crash and die, versus this other person over here who's exposed to the exact same virus and their terrain is healthy enough that they're not affected at all. They may have a positive test and no symptoms.
Right.
So it's more about the terrain than it is about this germ over here being scary.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been electromagnetic sensitive for a very, very long time. And I discovered this with my first cell phone. So when I got my first iPhone for work, I would use it and my hand would hurt. And the longer that I would use it, the more the pain would start shooting up my hand and up my arm, and I'd get headaches. And this would happen over and over. I'd put my phone down, it would go away. And then I'd pick it up and it'd happen again. And so, like a good little, you know, internet searcher, I got on the internet and I Googled, well, what could this be? And that's when I found out about electromagnetic sensitivity. And then I'm like, well, what can I do about it? And that's when I first discovered Organite. So I've been collecting Organite for over 10 years now. I have quite an extensive collection. And then in 2020, when I found myself with all this extra time on my hands, I decided to start creating it on my own. And my best friend and I started creating it, and we were just obsessed with making the strongest Organite possible for the most positive, beneficial effect for everybody who collects it, you know, wears it, keeps it around them. And we came up with our own unique blend of 29 different metals and crystals in crushed and powdered form. And it is the strongest thing that I have ever encountered in 10 years of collecting. And I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah, that's
It's
amazing.
been giving people a lot of really incredible and amazing experiences. And the other thing that I've been doing is I've been collecting evidence of actual effects on physical reality. So it's not that I just feel like it's working. It's not just like, you know, oh, I sense the energy or whatever. We are able to actually take pictures of actual effects on physical reality. And that to me is really exciting,
That is.
because, you know, a lot of Organite out there is actually really, really beautiful, but
Mm-hmm.
not very strong at all.
Right.
And so, you know, there's a couple of things that go into making really strong Organite. So the first thing is what's in there. And the Organite is evolving as this electromagnetic radiation that we are being exposed to is evolving as well. Because the stuff that I got in the beginning that was good against the 3G, when the 4G came out, I had to get different stuff. And now that the 5G is out, there's some very, very specific stuff that it has to contain in order to be effective.
Right.
And the number one most important thing is shungite. Shungite is black stone, and it contains naturally occurring fullerenes is what they're called. It's a very highly organized carbon structure. I don't know if you might be familiar with buckyballs, but that's something that science has been trying to create for a really long time. But this structure actually occurs naturally in shungite. And so it is a very powerfully organizing energy. And so that is the number one most important thing that you're going to need if you're collecting Organite, or if you're collecting stones to try and protect yourself in this current environment. You also need to make sure that it is cleansed and charged on a regular basis, because these stones, they do absorb and transmute the energy. And the more that they do that, the more that they lose effectiveness, because they basically just get kind of full, worn out. And so in my Organite, I also include selenite and citrine, which are two very, very high vibration stones that never need to be cleared or charged. And so when you include those in there, that makes the Organite perpetually self-clearing and self-charging.
Okay.
And then copper is a master amplifier. And so those four ingredients are critical if you're going to be looking for Organite that's going to be protective against everything that's going on right now. So shungite, citrine, selenite, and copper are the four most critical ingredients. Now I've got I also included in mine lots of other things, iron pyrite, iron oxide, iron filings, steel, brass, colloidal silver, gold, and platinum, and then so many other crystals. And it comes together and it makes what we call very affectionately like this brownie batter, because it makes this really rich brown color, and it does look like brownie batter. And one of the most common things that people tell me when they first see my Organite is like, oh my God, it's like, I want to eat it. Like, it just looks like candy. Like,
It's
look at
very
that. I mean,
smooth.
it's like, no, don't eat that. It will kill you. And I mean, it'll hurt the whole time you're dying. So definitely don't eat it. But yeah, it's been such an incredible journey learning how to make this, and it's one of my prime passions. And people that collect my Organite consistently report things like improved sleep. That is the number one biggest report that I get, is that people sleep better. They have more intense dreams. They remember their dreams. Some people are even reporting lucid dreams. Reduced pain. One of my favorite things to do is I make these coaster size. And so this, if ever I have something that hurts, like if I have a headache, that just goes on the back of my head, and that pain just goes, it just goes. Or a stomach ache, same thing.
Wow.
So reduced pain is a huge one. Reduced stress and anxiety. I had a 17-year-old girl who purchased one of my pendants at one of the flea markets that I go to. And then I had a craft show the following week, and she found me at the craft show, and she told me, she came up to me, she's like, this thing is amazing. She's like, I
Oh,
haven't had a panic attack in over a week. She's like, I used to have 2 or 3 a day.
oh
And then
wow.
she bought more.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, other people are reporting things like their fruits and vegetables. I have a client who has a piece and she put it in her refrigerator, and now her produce is just lasting so long. I mean, my produce lasts a really, really long time too. But she sent me a picture of these strawberries that she had in her fridge for 3 weeks,
Oh
3 weeks
wow.
on strawberries, and they looked fresh, completely fresh, like she just bought them that day.
Too bad we can't make everything with this. You know what I mean? Like just
Well,
build
I
everything
kind
with
of
it.
do. I kind of do. I make everything with Organite.
That's
Like my
awesome.
bathtub, I took the bottom of my bathtub, and the entire bottom of my bathtub is just a layer of Organite.
Oh, that's so cool. Do you make mats like for people? Because I know some people buy them and put them under their bed.
Then, they're not flexible.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
it's like a hard material. So making a big mat
Uh-huh.
is both a very expensive proposition, and I don't think it would be very comfortable.
Okay.
So what I usually do for sleeping area is, a little pyramid to go by the bed,
Mm-hmm.
or there's smaller sizes, so this one would be nice to fit under your pillow if you want it closer to you.
Right.
So you don't have to have a very big piece in
Mhm.
order to make it extremely effective.
Okay.
And that's one of the really nice things about my unique recipe, is just that, like I said, my stuff is actually a really, really strong recipe. So let me give you a for example. So in the 10 years that I've been collecting, this was the strongest piece that I had ever come across. And I collected this one, and I've got 6 of these, because I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome, I need more. And I had these all over my house. And this field on this has a radius of about between 6 and 7 feet. I
Okay.
use dowsing rods to measure the energy fields of the organite. And
Okay.
so that one's got about a 6 or 7 feet radius. Now, my piece this size has a radius of about 11 feet.
Wow.
And so
It's tiny.
yeah,
Yeah.
and this is a lot easier to carry around.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it also makes it so that you don't have to like have these great big chunky pieces constantly surrounding you.
Yeah.
You can just wear a little pendant and your whole body is protected all day. And that's one of the really nice things about having that strong of a recipe. So what really makes the recipe strong is not just the composition, the 29 different metals and crystals, but the size of the pieces. So by using smaller sizes of the pieces, we're putting these crystals and metals in a resin matrix, and when the resin hardens, it like puts pressure on them, causing a
Okay.
piezoelectric effect, which causes the energy field of the metals and crystals to expand exponentially.
Oh,
And the smaller the piece, the bigger the squeeze, the bigger the energy field. And that's why using the powdered and crushed metals and crystals, makes it such a bigger energy field. So that's kind of one of the interesting things I've learned in the many years that I've been collecting.
that's amazing. And you know what? This brings a lot of hope to people who can
Yes.
relate to what you've gone through, whether it's Lyme disease or chronic fatigue syndrome, or even
So
just
much of
using,
that is actually
earbuds.
related to all of this electromagnetic radiation that we are being
Mm-hmm.
bombarded with all the
Yeah.
time, because we are being bombarded with these disorganized energy fields
Mm.
from all directions. So your Bluetooth, your Wi-Fi, your 3G, 4G, 5G,
Yeah.
fluorescent lights, dirty electricity in the walls. I mean, it's
Wow.
x-rays, MRIs, microwave food, like it's everywhere. And what makes it so bad for us is the fact that it's like very spiky and disorganized, and so that actually interferes with our cellular function.
Mm.
And so what this stuff does is this is a very highly organized energy field. So it uses the property of entrainment to organize those spiky, disorganized waves into smooth, even waves that no longer interfere with our cellular function.
Wow.
Entrainment is a really interesting property. And they've done a lot of really interesting studies on that. And one of the easiest ways for me to explain it is about a clockmaker. So this clockmaker made grandfather clocks and had hundreds of them in the same room. And so when he's working on them, you get them start ticking, and they all start ticking, and it's chaos, and they're all ticking all over the place. And then when he goes into his office the next day, after all of these are all just ticking in, random ways, what he finds is that in the morning, they're all ticking in unison.
Oh,
So these vibrations have a tendency to harmonize with each other in the
okay.
property of entrainment. And so that is what we are utilizing when we're utilizing things like essential oils. That's another very high vibration modality. And what they do is they use that property of entrainment to bring our body back to balance. And that's also what these do as well, is they're using that very high vibration organized energy, and it just brings the energy back into balance in a very beneficial way.
That's beautiful. Oh, so amazing. So, how would you describe the idea, the concept of starseed? What does that word mean to you?
Well, we're not really from here. So, I've been
Visiting.
learning more about this. I didn't really identify as a star seed for a long time. It wasn't really on my radar until maybe about 2 years ago. And so basically, one of the interesting idiosyncrasies about humanity is we have this idea that we're somehow alone in the universe. Of all of the billions and millions and trillions of stars
Mhm.
out there, we're the only intelligent life in this universe. Well, I question the intelligence, but but I think that that's hubris. I think that that is just the fact that we have not necessarily had encounters with these beings.
Mm.
But there are very highly intelligent, highly involved beings who have come to this planet and who are involved in this planet and who were involved in the starting of life on this planet. And it's all about evolving to that next level. It's about raising the consciousness. It's about helping us get back to our divinity and knowing our power. And it's just really interesting stuff. So, if you're someone who hasn't much looked into star seeds yet, there's a lot of really interesting information out there, and I do highly recommend it. I can't say that I fully understand everything. This is definitely a learning journey.
Mm,
But
agreed.
yeah, it resonates with me very strongly because I've never felt like I was from here. I've never fit in, not my whole life. And, I spent a lot of time being bullied as a child and being, ostracized by peer groups because it's like, oh, what do you got all those weird crystals for? What are you talking about
Oh,
with this muscle testing stuff? Oh, that's not scientific. Yeah, it
yeah,
is
it is.
actually.
Yeah.
And we also need to remember that when it comes to our senses, like visually, like, okay, just as a for instance, visually, we see approximately 1% of all of the
Wow.
visible light spectrum that
Hmm.
actually exists. 1%. And so 99% of everything that's going on that could be perceived in a visual way is outside of our awareness. And yet what we know everything? I don't
Wow.
think so. It's the
No.
same thing with hearing. It's the same thing with taste. It's the same thing with smell. It's the same thing with touch. Our physical bodies are only capable of experiencing this tiny, tiny little slice of everything that is. And if you don't think that, that just because we can't perceive it, that it has effect on physical reality, how do you think your Wi-Fi works? Can you see those Wi-Fi waves? How do you think
Exactly.
your Bluetooth works? How do you
Yeah.
think your 3G, 4G, 5G works? How do you think your microwave works? Can you
Yeah.
see or feel or smell or taste or
Ex-
hear those waves? Any of them?
Some can. You could feel. I'm sure you feel.
I do.
You're like,
I
oh,
mean,
it's
I
here.
am very sensitive, so I
Yeah.
do feel, but a lot of people,
No,
nothing,
they're
not a thing.
desensitized. We're
Yeah.
so, yeah, there's a lot to be said about that. And then the aspect of going back to what you were saying about the health, the lack of hope that they give you, at the end of the day, the fact that you're encouraging people to be empowered is where it's at. And I really love that what you're doing. It's phenomenal.
Yes. I
Yeah.
want to give people the tools that they need to be able to heal themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen the little meme on the internet, but it's true. Our ability to heal ourselves is far greater than we've ever been led to believe. And
Mhm.
that actually kind of brings me to a little bit more about my chapter, because I talk a lot about my focused intention in
Okay.
in our chapter, and our intentions, our thoughts are so incredibly powerful. If
Yeah.
you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right. And so, when we are having thoughts, when we are saying words, our physical being is listening.
Mm.
And so one of the most important things that I can tell people is if you've ever been diagnosed with something, don't own it. Don't say, oh, my diabetes or my cancer or my flu
Mm.
or whatever it happens to be. Don't own it.
Right.
Say, I was diagnosed with this, but it's outside. That's information coming from outside of you. They may
Right.
have diagnosed me with that stuff, but that's just the label that they
Right.
place on the cluster of symptoms that I'm
Right.
currently experiencing. And that is not the truth of my reality. I don't accept that I have
Yeah.
those autoimmune diseases. And coming from that perspective, I mean, part of the power and the way that I've been able to heal is just by saying, no, I don't accept that.
I love it. I love
And then
that. The
I
power.
chose to find answers.
Okay. Could you tell us about your personal experience, or you don't have to get too deep into it, but you could share as much as you like, regarding your spiritual awakening into all this? I mean, I obviously it was from a health related induced, but is there anything
Yeah.
specific you can kind of
Well,
dive into?
absolutely. Some of it was feeling different my whole life. Some of it was getting information and feelings and sensations that I never had any idea where they were coming from. And that
Mhm.
was with me my whole life. I've always been sensitive. And about 2019, I had a major health crisis. I mean, I was on this healing journey, but it was kind of like, two steps forward, three steps back, one step forward, six steps back. And it was like I was going to these doctors on a weekly basis, for nutrition response testing to adjust my pills and all of this other stuff. And I'd get a little better and then a lot worse. And sometimes it was like falling
Mm.
off of a cliff. Well, in 2019, I met this doctor, and he's got a clinic out in Arizona. And he told me that after I described to him what I was experiencing, that he thought that he could help me achieve a 90 to 95% reduction in all of my symptoms. And I'm like, great. That is the closest thing to a cure anybody's ever offered me. I'm going. And so I took a month off of work and I went out to Arizona,
Ooh.
and I had some incredible experiences out there. I mean, first of all, when you unplug from your life and you spend a month where you are just by yourself,
Mm.
doing nothing but healing, it is, well, it's so necessary. It really is, because we
Yeah.
have no idea how much of our life we are spending taking care of everyone else and everything else, and how much we're neglecting ourselves. And so I was in this quiet place. Like, I didn't even turn on the TV the entire time I was out there. I did a lot of journaling. I did a lot of meditating. I was at that clinic 3 to 5 hours every single day. And that's also when I, through divine coincidence, met a lady named Lana DeRue, and she is an emotion code, body code practitioner. And she just so happened to be at the clinic at the exact same time getting some healing work for a shoulder from a car accident. And we met when we were both on some of the BMI machines in the hallway, and we just sort of hit it off like a house on fire. And so she offered me one of her sessions, and I'm like, I'll try anything. I'll try anything if it's not likely to hurt me. So set me up. And my first session with her, it was about lunchtime. And I was supposed to be eating at a certain specific time every day for this new dietary program that I was on. And I'm like, okay, so can I have my lunch and then come meet you? And she's like, just bring it with you. And, I'll set up and we can get started while you're eating. I'm like, okay, fine. Well, one of my big issues that I was experiencing was difficulty swallowing.
Mm.
And it had been at that point 3 years since I had been able to eat a comfortable meal. There were times that food got stuck in my throat to the point that I had to vomit to relieve that. There were actually a couple of times where food had blocked my airway.
Wow.
And I was at the point where I was actually kind of afraid to eat alone. And so I took my first bite of my salad, and the first thing that happened was I choked, and it was stuck right there. And she's looking at me and she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, and I grabbed my water, and I like forced it down, and I'm like,
Oh.
and then I said, that reminds me, I haven't been able to eat a comfortable meal in 3 years. Is there anything that you could do about that? And so she did this emotion code, body code session on me, and she released 9 trapped energies from this area, things that I'd
Whoa.
never told her. Birth trauma from sexual assault from when I was a teenager, like like
Yeah.
crazy stuff. Like, I'd never told this perfect stranger, and she's coming up with this stuff with perfect accuracy, and she releases this out of here. And then I was able to eat my first comfortable meal in 3 years. It
Wow.
was like this pressure that was on my throat was just gone, and I'm like, I need to know how to do this.
That's
And
awesome.
so I started
Oh
learning
my
how to
gosh.
become an emotion code, body code practitioner. And then
Okay.
it was also like later on that week, I was going up to Sedona, which is a very, very healing place. A lot of, very well known for healing vortexes, and attracts healers from all over the world. And so I had a session to get my aura photographed. And I
Mm-hmm.
also had a session or a scheduled to go to vortexes, okay, and have a vortex tour. And so one of the other issues that I was having at that time was that my bowels were like 90% blocked. And my doctor that I was working with at the clinic put me on this stuff, and he's like, you're really not going to like this stuff. You're going to need to stay really close to the bathroom, but you need this. So, you know, start out with 2 pills. If nothing's happening, go up to 3. You can take as many as 4 if you really need them. Well, I was up to 4 and nothing was happening.
Oh, wow.
And I woke up on the day of the tour that I was supposed to be on, which is a Saturday, and I had these 2 words in my head. It was like somebody speaking into my ear. Now I'm deaf in this ear, and it was like somebody was speaking into this ear and said the words Cascara Sagrada. And I'm like,
Huh.
heck is that? I have never heard of that in my life. Is that like a character in a book that I'm reading? Is that something from a TV show? So I get on Google and I'm like, what is Cascara Sagrada? And it comes up, it is a Native American herb that is good for cleaning out your bowels.
Oh my gosh, that's
And so I'm
awesome.
like, okay, well, where can I get this? Well, it turns out there was some at Whole Food. And then I get this call from the guy that's supposed to be doing my Vortex tour later, saying, like 20 minutes after this happened, I get this call and he says, hey, there's this place I want to take you and it's really close to Whole Foods. Can you park in the Whole Foods parking lot and I will meet you there? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm like,
There's
all right, God, I am
synchronicity.
listening. I am listening.
I'm on my way.
So
That's
then I
awesome.
go and I get my aura photographed and I have this really incredible reading, and this woman's telling me, she's like, you are a master healer, you are a shaman, you
Ooh,
need to open your own healing
okay.
facility and do all of this stuff. And she's giving me all of
Mhm.
these confirmations of things I've been talking about and thinking about for years, but
Yeah.
didn't really know how to do. And so, you know, one of the things that she said is she's like, you need a little bit of Ganesh in your life. Ganesh is an Indian elephant god, and he is the remover of obstacles. And so she had these Ganesh statues in her shop. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll get some Ganesh. And I got me a Ganesh and I got him and I put him in my car. And now I'm on my way to go and meet this guy to take me on this Vortex tour. So he's picking me up in the Whole Foods parking lot. And I get into his car, never met him before in my life. And I look down in his cup holder. And what do I see? Ganesh in his cup holder. And I'm just like, all right, God, I'm listening. What you need me to hear, I'm listening.
Definitely we're
And it
on your
was
right path.
just like, I mean, it was just like divine coincidences in
Mhm.
such a strong way that you could not deny
Right,
that something greater than me was happening.
right.
And so I tuned into that. You know, I got the emotion code book. I began my journey to become certified. I learned how to muscle test myself. That for the first time I learned how to muscle test myself, and that opened up my world to me, because muscle testing is a way that you can actually ask your own body what it is that you need
Mhm.
and get answers in a concrete way to fix what's going on. And it had been used in chiropractic and this nutrition response testing, but I was always having to have somebody else do it for me. And I'm like, God, I really wish I knew how to do this for myself,
Mhm.
because, you know, I could have my husband come home from work and I've got a question. So here, push on my arm for me. But when I learned how to do it on myself, oh my God, I muscle test everything now. Everything that I put into my body or onto my body, I muscle test. And
Goodness.
so if it's pills, if it's food, if it's beverage, if it's some sort of new therapy that I want to try, I muscle tested my Organite recipe. And so since I've been doing that, what I have found is that my health has now been on a consistent upward trajectory,
Okay.
and I'm taking far fewer pills and supplements. So now I've got like serious cabinets full of pills that I'm just not taking anymore. And that is such a huge relief, because when I was
Wow.
at my sickest and when I was going to this nutrition response testing practitioner on a daily basis, or on a weekly basis rather, like at the most pills, I was taking over 60, that is 60 pills a day. That
Wow.
is choking down a full freaking bottle of pills every day. And I was having difficulty swallowing. So you can
Wow.
imagine how great that was. But I was doing it because I'm like, you know what? The only thing that's going to make me better is consistency, consistently doing those things that I need to do. Well, what
Mhm.
I found now is if I consistently muscle test, there's some days I don't have to take any pills at all. There's
Wow.
some days that I take up to 10 or 12. But it just depends on a daily basis what my body needs. And the more that I ask my body, the more my body gives me relevant answers, and the more that I am able to continue improving my health without having to run to the doctor, without having to run to other practitioners, without having to ask somebody else what is wrong with me and what do I do about it.
Right.
And that is such a powerful thing. And I would love, I mean, my dearest wish is to be able to teach everybody how to do this for themselves. And that's one of the things that I do. So if you're not comfortable with doing it for themselves, because there's an epidemic of not trusting yourself, most people are like, well, okay, so I got these answers, but I'm just really not sure. Well,
Yeah.
then, you know, that you got to correct trusting yourself, because you can trust your own soul. You can
Mhm.
trust your own soul to tell you what you need. And you can trust that your soul has your best interest at heart.
Right. I think you hit a huge nail right there when you said we're in a pandemic where we're being taught not to trust ourselves. It's so sad. Like I definitely relate to that in a lot of ways, but at the same time, like when I connect with people like you, it's one of the common themes I'm hearing is hope, trust, persevere, believe in yourself. These are very strong, powerful tools, I think, for anyone. But as someone who is awakening and realizing that power is in your own hands, it's a beautiful exchange of synergy because you're now empowering yourself and then you go empower others, and you're doing
Yeah.
amazing work. I got to get one of your
Thank you.
organites.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I
So
love it.
if you're interested in my Organite, you can find that on
Mhm.
phoenixhealingcreations.com. And that will, bring you to everything that I have listed online. And to be perfectly honest, I am a lot better at making it than I am at getting it on the internet. So if you have an interest in something that is not listed on there, or if you like want a pyramid of a specific manner, I also do custom creations too.
Okay.
So like this one, one of my most recent ones that I did was a custom chakra pyramid. So
Mm.
this one took me 2 months to make,
Oh wow.
and it's got about 14 layers in there. And I was contracted to make that for somebody, and I'm like, you know what? I get tired of like making these beautiful things and then giving them away. So I made one for myself at the exact same time.
I
So
love
I
it.
did two of them. So this one's mine.
Yay.
But it's just like I do custom creations. It does take
Okay.
time, because this is not my only job as much as I wish it was. I'm moving in that direction, but I don't get out into my Organite creating shop every single day as much as I would like.
Okay.
So it does take some time, but I can do custom pendants. I can do custom pyramids. I can do custom, like, I mean, this is actually a mold that I got, a lotus flower
Yeah, that's beautiful.
that was a custom creation for somebody. She got hers, which was like a teal one, and then I made this one out of amethyst and crown chakra. So I mean, I can create almost anything that you can think of.
Okay.
And I just love doing it. So again, that's phoenixhealingcreations.com.
Okay.
And yeah, there's also a way to contact me through that, phoenix.healing@yahoo.com, if you want to email me or have any questions about any of this. I'm
Okay.
happy to do emotion code, body code work for people. It is constantly and continuously fascinating what comes up. And my own psychic abilities have really enhanced and intensified since I've been doing this work consistently and muscle testing on people. One of the fun little things that I do that has really been one of my most popular things is I do an "Are you psychic?" reading. And there's 11 different ways that I am aware of that we can be psychic. And I can muscle test on each one of those categories and give you kind of a numeric value of how strong you are on those on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 being not at all and 10 being the strongest you can be. And then give you some insight into how that's affected your life, how you can better protect yourself. Because I meet so many empaths. And when you're an
Mm.
empath, you are so sensitive to other people's emotions. When you can even sometimes manifest other people's physical symptoms in your own body.
Oh, wow.
And when you are an empath and you don't know this, I was an empath and didn't know this for many, many years. And so much of the physical ailments that I was experiencing was due to what I was picking up from everybody else
Oh,
and
wow.
added to my
Yeah.
burden. So I was carrying around like all of these burdens for other people that they weren't aware of and I wasn't aware of, that were contributing to making me so sick.
Yeah.
And so I never go anywhere without my Organite protection, because this stuff actually helps to keep our own integrity in our energy field, and it helps to keep us from picking up so much from
Beautiful.
everybody else.
I need
And
to get
so if
one.
you are empathic,
Yes.
definitely need, some pendants, definitely need some,
Yes.
something that you're wearing on a daily basis so that you can protect your own energy.
Yeah.
Because there are just so many ways in this world right now that other people like attach to us and kind of suck us and drain our energy dry.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to give all of our gifts to the world when we're running on empty because our tank has been drained.
Right. So true. So could you tell me what inspired you then to be a part of Awakening Starseeds Volume 2 book? Did you um, feel the call, or was it because?
Well, actually, Radha and I have been working together in an
Okay.
emotion code, body code capacity
Oh,
for almost, oh gosh, 9 months, 10 months. It's starting to get close to a year.
wow.
And so she and her whole family have been working with me on an emotion code, body code level. And I was doing these sessions for them on a very routine basis, on a weekly basis. And they invited me to be part of this. And it was, that was such a compliment for me, because I really do feel called to heal the world. I do a lot of earth healing work through my emotion code, body code, and also intuition and the things that I'm just called to do. I do a lot of grid work. I do a lot of portal closing and
Wow.
vortexes. I do a lot of clearing demons and entities. Like I just have a real talent for that
Wow.
work. I've been attracted to spirits since I was little, like ever since I was little. And that's part of my calling, is to help these lost souls and to get to the other side, to be redeemed in the loving infinite light of Jesus Christ. And I mean, I didn't come to Jesus through religion either, which was always an interesting thing. I was
Yeah.
raised Catholic, and so much of the religious stuff has been corrupted. And so I really very resistant to the idea of religion, very resistant to, only through Christ and everything. But when you understand what God is, by definition, God is omnipresent, meaning everywhere all the time, meaning part of you, part of me, part of this desk, this chair, everything right now. Omniscient, meaning knowing everything. All powerful, meaning, can do anything. And unconditional love. And so I spend a lot of time meditating on those concepts. And one of the things that gets me is, so many people that are Christian want to sit there and tell you that the only way is through Christ. And I can tell you that that is not true. There are more. Any search for God on any level is sacred. Okay. But in my opinion, beware any person that places themselves between you and God, because you are inseparable. God is part of you. You're just a little piece of God who has this delusion that you are separate. And we come down to this density, this 3D experience, in order to learn lessons that advance our soul's understanding and experience of the universe. This is my understanding. And I have been a religious, well, not religious, but a spiritual seeker the whole of my life. And so I studied, Buddhism and Christianity and Wicca and pagan, and I've dabbled in all the different stuff, looking for the truth. And the truth is that God is everywhere all the time, all powerful, all loving, knows everything. And so, in my opinion, if you were doing something that an all-powerful being did not want you to do, frankly, he wouldn't be able to do it because they'd stop you. So the fact that you're doing it means that you are supported. And unconditional love means completely without condition, means it does not matter what
Mhm.
you've done, who you are, the fact that you exist and you have free will to make whatever choices that you want means that God loves and supports you. And that also includes even the dark, icky stuff,
Yeah.
the horrible, worst possible things, the demons, the devil, Satan, etc.
Hmm.
That only exists because God loves us so much that he allows all beings to make their own choices.
Right.
And so when Christ died on the cross to forgive all sins, he placed no qualifications on that. When he was up there dying for our sins, he did not say, well, I'm dying for this person and that person and this other person, and you have to do X, Y, Z in order for me to, forgive your personal sins. No, 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 no. Unconditional,
Hmm.
meaning everything. And so when I encounter these demonic beings, they come at me with intent to kill. They come straight at me with intent to kill. But I've already given my life in service to God. And if today is my day to die, so be it. And you're loved and forgiven too. I simply love and forgive them and send them straight back to the unconditional love of Christ, and they're gone.
That's beautiful.
And this
That's
happens over and over and over and over again.
I like,
And
wow. Everything you just said, I understand and I agree with you 100%. And the way that you so eloquently put that, I think a lot of people are going to be able to have a light bulb go off, or it'll help them understand. Um, I noticed that you mentioned earlier about shamanism. And
mhm.
part of what I understand about shamanism is it's a way to help bring our brothers and sisters back home to the light that are stuck in the dark, essentially, because there are aspects of us who that is dark within, but it's
Oh
like the
yes.
shadows, all these different things.
Well,
So,
we've been on this planet over and over and over again. This is not a
mhm,
one-time experience.
right.
Our souls come down on this planet over and over and over again in order to finally, like, kind of truly rise above it. And it's during our different incarnations, we have all of the different experiences. We have been both the person that is murdered and
Mhm.
the person who is murdering. We have been both the highest, most holy priest and the people that are down there worshiping the devil. We have had, for those of us who are super old souls, and I am one, I've come to realize through working with some other healers and past life regressions and things like that, and
Okay.
several
Yeah.
several of my own past lifetimes were as very demonic, dark, Satanist, in the worst possible thing. And yet somehow I am still here now doing this. And it's only through the unconditional love of God that is even possible, that we are allowed to make those choices and have those experiences. And it's only through both integrating the dark and
Hmm.
the light that
Hmm.
we get totality.
Okay.
Life is not all light. Life is not all dark.
Right.
It's both. And sometimes it's only through the contrast that we really understand what is good and what is bad.
Right.
How do you know what light is without the dark?
Right.
If dark didn't exist, what is light? It's so we do have to learn to unconditionally love. We do have to learn how to forgive. And so, that is actually one of the things that I'm incredibly strong at is, doesn't matter how dark these things are that they come at me, you know, fine, I'm just going to unconditionally love you and forgive you and send you straight into the arms of Christ, where
I
you can be
love it.
loved and healed and redeemed.
I love it.
That's all there is to it. Come
That
at me,
is
bro.
that's amazing. So when you did go through the process, how supported did you feel with Rada Publications and
Oh,
your
she's
overall
amazing.
experience?
I mean, she's been really amazing. Working with her has actually taught me a lot. I've learned how to do new techniques and stuff because she's always asking me to do things that are a little bit outside of my comfort zone or what I have learned.
Okay.
And so she's been a catalyst for me
Uh-huh.
to become a better healer.
Okay.
And she's been incredibly supportive of me, and you know, she's constantly telling me how amazing that I am, and how much it's helped her personally in her life and her family, because I've worked with, you know, a lot of her family as well at her direction. And you know, she's a real I mean, she's a star seed. She's a light worker. She's a real powerful healer in her own right. And what she's trying to do is something that is so needed on this planet right now, bringing together all of these healers to bring these messages of hope and healing to the world. And so I definitely think that what she's doing is so important, and she's such a beautiful, bright spirit.
I agree. Oh, I love how you speak. You're kind of just you're hitting home runs right now. I think a lot of people are gonna really enjoy, going to read your chapter. I mean, it's so beautiful. What was your overall feeling throughout the whole process of working with Rada Public House? Like, what was it that stood out to you the most? And I kind of have an idea based off of what you just said, but I'm
Um,
from.
For me, this, I think I might have been the last person that she invited to be part
Oh.
of this. So for me, it was a little bit of a, you know, like, we really want to include you. We need your stuff. And so putting this together was very fast.
Okay.
Um, you know, I think I put together my chapter in like well, I put it together in one night for a rough draft, and
Oh,
then we've been
wow.
polishing it for about a month.
Okay.
And so it's been kind of a whirlwind for me, but in a really good way, because I've been wanting so much to bring some of this work out to the world. And in my chapter, I want to make it so that each person can take away something that they can do in their life right now to help with global healing, to help mitigate the electromagnetic radiation, to help mitigate the weather modification that's going on, to help take care of the cell phone towers that are being put up and surrounding us that we don't get a choice about.
Right.
And concrete ways that we can protect ourselves and utilize our power, understand that we do have the power. So one of the things that I talk about is, like, I clear chemtrails. So the stuff that they spray in the sky. And I started doing this when my kids were little. I actually would teach my kids, you know, we would go and find a nice little field to lay in, and we would concentrate on a little fluffy cloud. And then we would use our intention to say dissolve and disperse in love and in light. And we would watch these little clouds just disappear over and over, over and over. And
Wow.
so that was, gosh, my oldest is 20 years old now. So that was like, what, 18, 9? No, that was probably like 15 or 16 years ago, because they were little when we started. But, you know, it was probably like 7, 8, 9, 10 when we were really doing that a lot. And so, you know, knowing that, just my intention, just focusing on that, and focusing on that with a laser beam focused intention, that I could make those little clouds just poof and disappear over and over again. And so I started doing that on the more challenging stuff. The chemtrails are very much more challenging, because those aren't just like little fluffy clouds that just kind of, you know, are put together and floating by through Mother Earth. Those are actually held together with chemicals and substances and very dark intentions. And so it does take a lot more to clear those as compared to your normal, natural, fluffy little clouds.
Right.
And so
Mm.
that's kind of where I'm focusing my work now. I do a lot of clearing for weather modification stuff. My global grid is very focused on getting rid of this weather modification technology that they're rolling out, the HAARP, the
Mm.
geoengineering, the chemtrails that they're spraying all the time. Those lines in the sky, they are not natural.
Mm-mm.
No, they're not. And they're putting things in our body without our permission. And I'm not cool with that. I'm just
Right.
not cool with that at all. And so I feel so strongly that I need to do absolutely everything that I can to do something about that. And I want to get the word out of what we can do. And so with things like this is one of my big pyramids, and because it takes so much material and so much time to make, I mean, these are my most expensive pieces. But I've got some of these out in my backyard. And so what you can see is, like, I mean, they spray above me. But when it passes over my house, they dissolve and disperse. With the weather modification stuff that I use, I also apply sound frequencies to
Okay.
it to amplify that as well. And you can also observe on Doppler radar when there is a line of severe storms coming right at me. It parts around my town and then it comes back together. And so I know I've been watching this, I've been observing this for years now. I've been doing this, and when I travel, I like to road trip a lot. I travel and I do this on the road a
That's
lot,
awesome.
because I feel so strongly that I need to do absolutely everything that I can to help bring this planet into balance and to help heal the life that humans have so damaged, so destroyed. And to try and bring hope to people, because so many people out there are aware that these technologies are happening and they feel absolutely powerless to
Right.
do anything about it. Now, we are not powerless.
Right.
We have so much power. It's just you don't know. And if you don't know, then I guess you are powerless, because you don't know about the power that you have. So I want to empower people to know that you can do something about this, and you can get better with practice. The more that you do this, the more that you use your focused intention, the more that you collect and utilize tools to amplify your focused intention, the more you can affect physical reality and clear this nasty stuff that they're doing.
Thank you for doing that, by the way. I don't know where you traveled to, but I don't want to be on those roads.
Oh, all over. We road trip all over. And I've got big ambitions. My next big ambition is I want to get a fifth wheel trailer and put a little office in it and travel all
Yeah.
over the country doing this healing work and leaving Organite everywhere that I go. And,
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
that's my next big ambition. I think I'm probably 1 or 2 years out from that, though.
Well, let's put the intention sooner.
Yes,
I
as soon
love
as
that.
possible.
As soon as possible, baby. That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait to get some of your Organite because I have some. But I do believe that, I'm really excited to try yours based off of what I'm learning today. So
Well,
this
I
is
would be
exciting.
very, very interested to
Yeah.
know what you feel
Yeah.
when you get some of my pieces, because I mean, one of the most important things that I've been doing, in my opinion, is I like to send pieces of my Organite to healers. I don't know if you're familiar with Magenta Pixie.
I am actually.
She's a channeler,
Uh-huh.
and I sent a big package of my Organite out to her in the UK, and she sent me back a video, and she was telling me like my Organite feels very 5D, very unconditional love to her, and
Ooh,
I'm like, that is so cool.
that's
um i sent
awesome.
I sent some to Christopher Macklin of the Global Enlightenment Project. He does free healings online, on Zoom and on Facebook and on YouTube 3 times a week. Global Enlightenment Project. And he wants to heal as many people as possible. He does psychic surgery, which is really cool.
Oh,
These healings that he does 3 times a week. So, look him up on YouTube, Facebook, whatever. I sent him and a package as well. And he hasn't responded to me personally, but his wife Mandy has. And she's like, oh my God, this stuff is amazing. I've never collected Organite before because I've seen it, I've tried it, and I didn't feel anything. And she's like, I don't know what you're doing that's so different, but what you're doing is amazing. And then she's subsequently purchased 3 more times from me.
oh, that's
And so,
awesome.
that's the kind of thing that really jazzes me, when those people that are sensitive and
Hmm.
know that they're sensitive, and these big healer people are telling me that they're getting differences and that they notice positive outcomes from working with my stuff. Radha's another one. She's a very powerful healer in her own right, and she's got a lot of my stuff, and she wears my pendants and things all the time. um I've got Bone Mother Rising. She's a friend of mine, and she uses one of my pendants. And my crystal collecting friends, I'm like, here, you need some of this, because these also clear and charge other crystals. So instead of having to drag your whole collection and put it out in the moon or put it out in the sunshine, you just set them on these Organite coasters for a few minutes, and it clears your whole collection without that
I love it.
inconvenience
I
of
love
having
it.
to drag everything out. So it's
Okay.
I love that. I just love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So you have quite the oh my gosh. Okay, so you're just so amazing. You have quite the
Oh,
background.
thank you.
Can you tell us a few of the life lessons you've learned during these journeys and how it's made you who you are today? I'm
Oh gosh. Well, first thing is just to keep an open mind.
okay.
So much of the intention work has to do with your belief system. Muscle
Mm,
testing has to do with what you believe.
okay.
And your body will never give you an answer or work with you if you believe that you can't. So keeping an open mind is so important, because if your mind is closed, I mean, your angels and your guides can be sitting there and pounding on the door
Uh,
all day long. Let me in, let me in, let me in. And you're like, mm-mm, door's closed.
uh,
That's nothing there.
yeah.
So you have to be open to hearing those messages of spirit.
Mhm.
And basically, the more that you sit in silence, the more that you go within, the more that you attempt to connect with the divine source that exists within you, because it's truly within you. It's not something out there, it's in
It's
there.
in,
It's
yeah.
both. It's both. It's not one or the other, it's both. The more
Aha.
that you seek inside, the more that those answers are going to become apparent, the more that your guides are going to talk to you, the more divine coincidences are going to line up in your life, and that you're going to have these incredible experiences that just can't be denied. And nor can they be explained by some guy in a lab coat in some lab. I mean,
Right.
the physical reality
Yeah.
has certain rules, but the stuff beyond physical reality that science doesn't have yet a way to measure,
Mm,
just because they can't measure it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, doesn't
exactly.
mean that it doesn't affect us. I'm one of the things that I'm learning more and more lately is about astrology. I always thought, oh, astrology, oh, I'm a Virgo and blah blah blah, and I'm like, okay, so I didn't really put much stock into that. But then I started paying attention to um well, what planets in retrograde and what's going on universally impacting us. And the more I noticed that, yes, those things actually do affect us.
Yeah.
I had my birth chart read, and it was astounding what this person looking at my birth chart was able to tell me about myself that was absolutely true. And so it's not just a bunch of frou-frou, hokum, woo-woo stuff. There is so much out there above and beyond what we're told is real and scientific. Well, I'm sorry, science, there's science, and science is simply asking questions, making observations, trying to do it in a systemic way to find answers. It's a methodology. It's not like a thing.
Mhm.
Science is never settled. There is never ever a point where we can say, oh, gravity, this is it. It's just gravity. Well, oh, I'm sorry, interdimensional beings uh, do things that don't seem to apply to the laws of gravity as we know them all the time. And now you can even see on ads on Facebook, they've got these little floating planters that you could plant a little plant on there, and wave your little hand underneath it. But it appears to completely defy the laws of gravity, and now it's just like a little freaking Facebook ad. So even the things that we think are solid and can't be changed, and it's going to be that way forever, that's not necessarily so. That might just be our perspective at the time, what we're capable of understanding.
Mm,
And I think that we are experiencing globally some incredibly interesting things. Like right now, we're going through a period where we're having a lot of solar flares, and we're getting a lot of space weather coming in and affecting the planet. We're also, if you pay attention to the Schumann resonance of the Earth, the Schumann resonance, that's kind of like the heartbeat of the Earth, is how I would describe it. um, you can see that we're we're getting all of these really crazy spikes in energy, and the Schumann resonance is not like super predictable anymore. it
right.
is it is intense, it is fluctuating, there are things happening. Our magnetic poles are shifting, And so, we are seeing these giant planetary and universal things that are happening that haven't happened for millennia or ever to our experience. And we are affected by that, even if we aren't aware that we're being affected by that. And so it's really interesting to just start paying attention to these things and just start asking questions. Always ask questions. Always ask questions, and always defer to your higher self, your soul, for the truth. Our bodies are a barometer of truth. And in fact, that was one of the things that I learned about muscle testing. You can't say stay strong and tell a lie. And so, if my kids were ever kind of like telling me a story, it's like, all right, put out your arm.
Truth serum right
So
there.
you have a barometer of truth inside of you. And when you sit there and you're looking at this world around us, there's so much stuff that's going on, and something has got to be telling you on the inside that it's not right, and that there's more to this story. I mean, there's got to be that small, still voice inside of you going, yeah, I don't trust the official narrative. Somebody's bullshitting me somewhere. and you really have to learn how to tune into yourself.
Yeah.
We are in this world that is very focused on trying to keep us looking outside of ourselves for answers. Go to the doctor. If you get this car, or you wear these clothes, or you have these shoes, or you have this purse, now you're going to be a good person. What other people think about you is what matters. So mind how you talk to people. Don't be yourself. Make sure that you're putting yourself out there in a socially acceptable way. Forget all that. Honor yourself first. Honor yourself first. Because if you are sitting there and trying to arrange your life to please everybody, well, first of all, that's impossible.
Right.
I mean, pleasing everybody is impossible. Pissing everybody off, a lot easier. but when you are true to yourself, it doesn't really matter what other people think or say or do, because you know that you are being true to yourself. You know that you are doing the right thing, and you become a lot more immune to those societal pressures, and you become a lot more immune to the manipulation that exists out there, because there are out there right now a lot of forces that are attempting to manipulate us for their own gain and to our detriment. And that is a very, very bad thing. And I don't want to get too much into that right now, because it's a big deep rabbit hole, but yeah. But basically, when you stand in your truth, when you accept your own sovereignty, that you are a sovereign being, and you are of God. You are of God. You are a divine sovereign being. When you come to life from that perspective, magical things happen. Healing happens on levels that you were told was not possible. Synchronicities line up to help bring your life to this place that is just beautiful and amazing, and that you never thought was possible. So that would be my advice. Listen to yourself. First and foremost, listen to yourself.
I love it. I love it. You're spreading lots of good information to a lot of people who are going to be reading your chapter and hearing this interview. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. Now, can you explain to us, well, actually, can you share with the people that are listening, if they ever wanted to be a part of Rada Publishing, well, people who might be interested, what have you gotten out of the experience, and what would you tell anybody who would be wanting to be a part of something connected
out.
to Rada Publishing?
Definitely reach out, reach out to Radha. When things are in alignment, it's going to happen. And don't be afraid. Like, your voice deserves to be heard, and you also have a truth that needs to be shared with the world. We all do. We all come with our own soul mission and our own soul truth, and it's our job to spread that truth. I mean, that to me is kind of the purpose of life, is to share our truth and to live our truth.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, she's such a wonderful person to work with. She's extremely very supportive. You know, she's a catalyst, and she
Mm.
will help you learn more about yourself and your own abilities when you work with her. So yeah, don't be afraid. Reach out.
I love it.
Come
I
be part of it. It's a
I
beautiful thing. And this will also help you connect with other like-minded individuals. Because
mhm.
I know that this is a very common thing. Those of us who are starseeds, who are the healers, who are the old souls, we feel very alone. And we feel like we stick out like a sore thumb in the society that's like, oh yes, I got my Gucci bag and my Guess sunglasses, and we're going to go to party at this house with all this alcohol and what, and we know that that's not for us, and we walk around going like, but where's my people? Connecting with the star seeds, these are our people. And so if nothing else, even if you don't get to be part of the book necessarily at this point in time, it still puts you in touch with other star seeds so that you don't have
Mhm.
to feel so alone, because
I
you're
like
not
that.
alone. We're
Yeah.
all together in this, and we are starting to make more and more connections so that we can birth this new earth
Mhm.
and clear all this darkness from the world, and truly manifest something that is beautiful and supportive of all life.
Thank you. I Thank you for that. That was beautiful. Everything you're saying, I'm just like, I agree. She's so on it. Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for being here today. I know you mentioned it earlier, but can you just let everybody know one last time where they can find you and how they can get in contact with you?
Okay, so my website for my Organite creations would be phoenixhealingcreations.com. You can also learn a little bit more about me and my emotion code, body code work at myphoenixhealing.com, or you can reach out to me directly via email, phoenix.healing@yahoo.com. And so I'd also ask you to please type all that out underneath the interview when that gets posted
Yep,
online, so people could just click the links. But yeah,
you got it.
thank you so much for having me to be a part of this. I am so blessed and honored, and so very, very grateful. I truly hope that what I contribute helps to empower people and helps them to heal, you know, and helps Mother Earth to heal, because she's been so hurt for so long,
Mm.
and now is the time. We're gonna do this.
Yes, we
It's
will.
going to get better. It will. Beautiful, wonderful things are going to come because we are going to make it happen.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you. We appreciate you and everything you do. And until the chapter, I guess we'll be talking soon, but enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you again
Thank
for
you. You
being here.
too.